a great day, I'm feeling good. Oh, the possibilities of what I could.
What happens when a blind man, a woman of color, and a child of immigrants get together to discuss how diversity, inclusion, and equity affect your business?
I'm moving fast. Oh, I'm optimistic.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Choose Inclusion podcast. I'm UB, and I am the Latino white guy of the group.
I'm Nina. I am the woman of color in the group.
And I'm Mike. I'm the blind guy.
Well, and how have you, trying to think of how to ask this question. So is any of this that you're doing and everything you just described something that Buffer would put into a press release or some kind of external PR thing to say, hey, look at us. Look, we're doing a great job. Do you know what I mean? Does that the question make sense? Like, I guess I'm getting at the purpose behind all of this.
Yes, absolutely. It would. I think we would share it from the standpoint of the way we share so many things is that, hey, we're experimenting with this. Here's what we did. If you'd like to, learn something from us, great. Definitely not something that we did to market. You know what I mean? Definitely not something that because people do look at Buffer as a pioneer in so many ways, and we're really grateful for that. But this was for us. Like, this is a homegrown initiative, something that we, feel passionate about, something that's going to fill our spaces. And then from that cup that's overflowing, we'll share that with the rest of the world and go, hey, so we did this thing, and here's how we did it, because we're happy to share that, because if it helps you, great. But definitely not something to go, oh, look at Buffer, because now we're pioneering another cool thing in DEI. Absolutely not. You know what I mean? But
oh, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, that's something that for sure I want to share and open up conversations for other teams to ask questions and, hopefully make a difference in their organizations as well.
Well, and I think that's what I was absolutely getting at, because I think that's a key differentiator between any kind of DEI strategy or initiative that's successful versus one that's never going to be successful. And, I think over the last 5-10 years, most of the initiatives out there have fallen into that, that category of we're just doing this to look good, when in reality, it's not accomplishing anything. But the way you all have approached it is, go ahead, Mike.
Well, no, and so that's exactly what I was talking about earlier, where, again, and we don't even have to call out any organizations on this, but again, when you could tell when an organization's like, oh, we're totally embracing diversity and inclusion, so therefore we're focused on hiring women, we're focused on hiring veterans, and again, all great initiatives, but it's to me, I have a hard time totally buying into the whole, like, oh yeah, we buy into diversity and inclusion. And if I ask them, like, so how many people with disabilities do you have here, and they're like, oh, we have this one. I'm like, don't talk to me about embracing diversity and inclusion. So I think, again, what you're doing there, Keisha, starting with a broad lens of saying that we are different people in general, and we should be celebrating that. That's what I love about what she's doing, Ubaldo. So I love that. Yeah. So I get what you're going after.
Well, it's not just hiring. Like, it comes down to the fact that, like, it doesn't matter how many people you hire. If they come into an organization and they feel like crap working there, then they're going to leave, right? Like, you can hire as many underrepresented people from underrepresented groups as you want, and say you're doing those initiatives. But if they come there and they don't feel like they have a voice or they have a place or feel even safe, then, what does it matter?
Wait. Did you work at the same company I did before? Wait, what?
We all worked at this. Every company is like this, Mike. There's only a handful that have been really making the work, and Keisha's one of them. So
yes. Totally.
No,
agree.
y'all are right. Absolutely right, 100%. Because as someone who does own the hiring at Buffer, that's also a place where, yes, you want to try to make sure that you have a diverse candidate pool, that you have a diverse hiring team. You're thinking about all the things, but getting in the door is only one small step, right? Like, once you're actually here, what is that experience like for you? And beyond the spaces, thinking about opportunities for growth for underrepresented groups. All of that is a part of this initiative. And like I said, it's early. We're just launching, literally just launched, this new version this month. And so all these other things are ideas, but they're very much a part of what is to come, because we realize the importance of the inclusion piece. It's not just because we created this thing. Now you are invited to be a part of it. For example, let's say the Asian channel. I may have launched it, but I'm not a part of that space because I don't identify as someone in that group. So now it has become a platform to help grow other teammates as well, because there's a group leader in that space who I keep in touch with, who we, talk about different questions to share with the group and so forth. But that's literally how seriously we're taking the safety, the psychological safety of these spaces. If you don't identify someone as a part of these groups, then you are now an ally. And so what does that mean? Oh, great. We're glad you asked that question. We've got some training for you. We've got resources to help better understand that. We want to have more conversations. And coming up here soon, we're actually going to be launching an ally channel in addition to those other spaces, because we recognize the importance of really teaching and helping people understand that it's not just sitting on the sidelines and being a cheerleader. It's using your privilege to create opportunity and to make space and to amplify those voices. So there's so many layers, and I think foundationally that piece can work for, any organization, but you do really have to take a look at the gaps and opportunities at your organization. And, hopefully if there's a takeaway that someone can, build upon here, great, but it's really about what you can do in your organization and what's going to make a difference for your team.
Well, and the willingness to learn from mistakes, learn from successes, adapt, pivot, change, do again. I think that's the key too, is this isn't just a one and done thing. And why more organizations need to have a true focus and support behind these types of initiatives, because they literally, they flow throughout everything throughout the organization. I've always looked at diversity and inclusion, equity and belonging. Those types of things should almost live as like risk and compliance, right? Like an entity outside of the normal operations of the organization that flow through every aspect of the organization. Everything should flow back through. Every communication, internal and external, should flow through this DEI lens. Sales, marketing, ops, all of that stuff. This should truly be a core at the center of an organization. And I think we're getting there, right? It's conversations and examples like Buffer that keep pushing that idea forward, which I think is really important. But it's also important for people to understand that it's not just going to be like a one and done thing. You got to try stuff. You got to learn what works for your organization. Don't necessarily just take from somebody else and just try to apply it as is. No, you've got to adapt, and you've got to create safe spaces, but you also have to create brave spaces where conversations can be had that are hard, because those conversations need to happen.
Absolutely. And I think we're working towards those brave spaces. We have, obviously, as a fully remote company, we work asynchronously most often. And we have some tools that we use to put out announcements and just share, common themes. We actually just recently put out a thread where we shared some of our internal communications around COVID-19. And those were things that we put into one of the tools that we use that is called Threads, literally called Threads. And so with this DEI initiative, we've launched a separate space specifically for inclusion within this tool called Threads. And typically how we have, when you say you've always got to be experimenting and see what works and make changes and pivot, typically how we've used Threads in the past is, there's an announcement, and similar to the thread option in Slack, if you want to comment underneath, you can kind of, show some love to that particular thread. Well, what this initiative aims to do is to take the inclusion thread space and turn it into that discussion forum. And so now you just look at the tools that you use and how can you make them work for what you're trying to accomplish, right? So we're going to be asking those tough questions. And now we want to generate some discussion, some really thoughtful, engaging discussion. And there's an opportunity for you to ask the question directly in threads. For some people who may not be comfortable asking the question, there's an anonymous form. You can submit it, your question that way as well. But the point is ask. And I think that has to go along with the initiative that's launched as well. That was some of the language that we use to communicate it. Be curious. If you want to know something about a holiday or about a particular group or whatever it may be, ask a question. You have to set the stage to let everyone know that we're all in this together. We're all learning together. There's no one that is here to put anyone down for asking a question. And be helpful. If you know something, jump in. If you have something to say, if this is your holiday, you celebrate this is what you do. Share pictures, share stories, share traditions. This is how we learn. This is the advantage of working for a global company. I may never go to Sri Lanka, but I can actually experience the culture through my teammates, right? So making that space so that people feel comfortable to do that. And then just be you. If this is who you are and this is like something that's really important to you, go ahead and share it. I mean, we had some really interesting and reflective conversations that happened just after, Easter here recently, for people that celebrate it and sort of sharing a little bit more about their faith, or sharing how their faith makes them, who they are as it relates to their identity. Those things are super important that you open up for your team. It's safe to do that. And it's really important for me, at least, to literally use that word safe, because I think it just psychologically puts us a little bit more at ease to go, it's okay. You know what I mean? That's how we even label the description of the channel: a safe space for teammates of color, a safe space for, right? Because that's what it is. And you have to foster that and continue to nurture that.
Yeah.
I love that.
I'm so thrilled
See, Mike?
to have you. No, I'm so thrilled to have you share everything that you're doing at Buffer, and to really be vulnerable, to use a word that Nina uses from time to time, because I think for you to share what you're doing and how you've done it is something that others can truly learn from and recognize. This isn't something we need to go get a PhD in. It's something that you just got to believe in. And so thank you for coming on our podcast today. We really appreciate it, Keisha.
Absolutely. It's an honor.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Can we broach one last subject? Because I think it's important, just given the COVID-19 situation. And you brought this up a minute ago. But I think you could provide a lot of guidance for organizations who will be going either fully remote as a workforce, or at least certainly partially remote for a while, right? For the foreseeable future. You all have been doing this for your entire existence as an organization, remote work, right?
Right.
So what are the key lessons there? Because one of the initial obstacles to this is, how do we keep everybody engaged? How do we continue to create a culture that is inclusive? How do we continue to help every employee feel like they belong here? How do you do that?
Yeah, I would love to say that we have that figured out, but we don't. And I think a lot of people look to remote companies who may, in some cases, have literally written the book to have it all figured out. But we don't. We even say that working remotely and working remotely in a pandemic are two different things. And so the only thing that we do and that we strive to do is to continue to literally, as you just said, Mike, Nina's word, to be vulnerable and put that out there even to the team that we don't know, but we act. So we literally do polls and put surveys out to ask teammates, how are you feeling? What would be the support that would best serve you right now? We've done things like casual hangouts where we've just popped on Zoom and just said, how's it going? Very similar to a group chat, but you don't have to identify with a particular group. It's just, how are you? Thinking about how we can better serve parents who are at home with their littles and trying to work at the same time. Thinking about how we can better serve teammates whose partners may be out of work right now and they're feeling the pain from that. We're just really leaning into that vulnerability and saying, yes, we've done remote and we feel like we've done that to a certain level of, understanding of what we've been used to thus far. but this is a completely different situation. I think the best thing that folks can do who are finding themselves in these situations suddenly is to be vulnerable and to not think that you're going to put something in place that's going to be this hard stamp of like, this is how we do it remotely, because you're going to always need to be flexible. You're going to always need to listen to the heartbeat of your people and find out how you can best serve them. We're conscious of how to serve our customers in this time and how that impacts us. You know, whether it's financially, you know, physically with our time, emotionally, it's a lot for people to even think about bringing themselves to work, whole self or not, you know, in a time where your heart and your mind is so divided and focused on other things. And so I think it just really, now is the time for remote teams to really open up that heart space for themselves to say, I don't know, and that's the best that I have right now, but here's what we can do, and be very transparent about it, to open up communication, you know, from the top down, to say, here's some ideas that we have, which, as I said, you know, we've shared some of those communications, and just constantly try to keep that pulse, trying to keep a pulse on managers and how conversations are going with their teams, and just opening up space for folks to say, I'm not okay, and check in, you know, check in with each other. You know, you don't, like you said, you don't have to have a PhD. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to check in on your teammate and go, I just want to make sure that you're okay. And I think that's the key for any team, whether you work remotely for a period of time or you're just falling into it, is we don't have all the answers, but we're literally just trying to come together and ask those questions, be vulnerable, and, you know, day by day, try to see if we can help meet those needs for the team to move forward.
Yeah, vulnerability and graciousness, I think, are the two words I like to use a lot. We have to personally be vulnerable and then offer graciousness to everyone around us. And I think that's more important now than ever. And so, you know, I think this actually gives us a really great excuse, Keisha, to invite you back on the podcast in like 6 months, because I mean, I just love your entire philosophy. The UX designer in me is just kind of loving it, because it really does come down to, you know, you put something out there, you test, you get feedback, and you iterate. And I think we have to be applying that same philosophy to how we approach diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging at our companies as well. So I just am excited about having you come back in like 6 months and tell us about everything you learned in the process of implementing all the stuff that you're doing, because I'm sure you're going to have so much insights to share with everybody too. And I think that's part of the journey.
Oh yeah.
I second that, Nina.
I third that, even if 6 months from now looks like The Walking Dead or a Mad Max movie. I don't even care.
Well, there's going to be different insights to learn from that too.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm saying. We'll be the new voice of the apocalypse.
Yeah, well, all I know is I don't remember hearing about a lot of blind survivors on The Walking Dead. I'm just saying, like, I won't know when they're coming. I'm just saying.
That's why you have us. You're a secret weapon.
Yeah, I don't know about that. You have a heightened sense of hearing, and so you'd probably like sense them way before we would with our, you know, relying on sight too much.
Run that way, Mike. Run.
We'll just wrap a bunch of barbed wire around your stick.
That's great.
You got a built-in weapon.
Yeah, exactly. You're already ahead of the game.
Yeah.
And on that note,
Keisha, we so appreciate you. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This was great. You know, I love y'all. I appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, everyone.
Bye, guys.
That's wrapping up another episode of Choose Inclusion. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks for listening to the Choose Inclusion podcast. Make sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And you can see closed captioning for this podcast on our YouTube channel. You can find us online on our website, chooseinclusion.com, and contact us on Twitter @ChooseInclusion.